Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. Today we are having a 1v1 between FlyingDuck and Ubivator. This map is called, if I remember correctly, Eye of Horus, and we've seen it a couple of times on the channel. Normally played as a team game with several start positions there, and obviously in the center. If everything sounds a little bit weird, I have just moved house, so everything's a bit up in the air. This is also why you're seeing this kind of an intro today, as I don't have all the stuff I need to do the other recordings right now, so bear with me for a little while I unpack everything and finally find all the bits I need. So we're looking to improve stuff now that I'm in the new house by getting a new microphone and whatnot. But anyway, so here we see Mr. FlyingDuck already stalling energy, but going straight into Con as first unit out. Now this map is quite large, so it kind of makes sense that he would do that. Take a little while for units to get across, and as we zoom over here we can see ticks are starting to make their way across, but that first constructor is already out as the ticks pass the midway part of the map. FlyingDuck should in theory be able to get some form of combat unit out in time before these ticks arrive. It's going to be pretty close though, as FlyingDuck is not assisting the factory and has actually been a bit too slow here. The grunts coming out will be enough to stop the tick harass too much. There you go, that metal extractor was secured. This grunt will now support this con as it moves around, and should be the same for this one here, going to support that one. Yeah, so those ticks don't really get any valuable work done there other than providing a bit of aggression and, well, intel, you could argue. Keeping a grunt pretty much by every single metal extractor at the moment to try and stop these ticks getting by. But let's have a quick mosey on over to Ubivator's base. So Ubivator has gone pretty heavy in the ticks. He has two constructors up, the same as FlyingDuck, but has got a mixture of pawns into ticks here as well. Now, when it comes to stats, it's pretty much neck and neck at the moment. Not really anything to talk about. There are passes on this map that can be moved over by bots, which is why we see both players starting with bots here. It is quite common to see players change into vehicles a bit later on, but it does mean that they lose out on that strength of being able to pass over. Something like this hill is a prime example of that, and they get stuck into kind of the choke points on the map, which is this bit, and this bit over here. As you can see, these parts of the hill here are able to be moved over, as well as the center, which you can see by that pawn there, just doing that very same thing. Also, with your opponent being bots, this area over here becomes a bit of a weakness, as units can make their way over there. Same with over here, like that. So it's a bit difficult to deal with if you do transition over to vehicles, so you definitely have to make it work by pushing one specific area. Now, FlyingDuck with a good quantity of units on this right-hand side. Probably not enough to actually make that big of an impact here, as he is approaching the factory. And so fresh units will be coming out pretty quickly. Not only that, he's going to get collapsed a little bit by these two pawns on the south side. Instead, though, FlyingDuck does manage to intercept them a bit. At the same time, units on the left-hand side get intercepted as well. There is a single tick down here, which now gets detected as well. Meanwhile, in the center, Ubivator has been slowly but surely expanding. One thing that FlyingDuck is doing here, by positioning so many forces on this side, he is slowing down this expansion. Now, a Centurion has come out here, which will prove difficult for FlyingDuck to deal with. And these guys, he's got kind of get trapped if he's not too careful. Now, they can like go over there to escape, but surprisingly going all in on this Centurion here. He does lose about 4 or 5 grunts to kill the one Centurion. Meanwhile, expansion getting killed. Good move on the left-hand side here as well. Also shutting down Ubivator as these forces make their way across. A con does get killed, but okay, nothing moved from there. I was seeing if he was going to do something with that attack, but no. Both players struggling with E at the moment. Perfect time to attack as the LLT cannot fire effectively due to the energy loss. Not enough, though, to make a big impact of it, but still, that's a good move from FlyingDuck. The only problem is that he's not pushing into the center himself, and because of that, he's kind of not really making the most of this advantage that he has. Metal produced currently is advantage Ubivator. Although how long that lasts for is a different story. Second Centurion now out and about. It's going to make it difficult for FlyingDuck to push in. Obviously, he doesn't want to waste too many of these grunts when he's got a huge group of pawns there. But tremendous pressure being applied. This radar was lost. FlyingDuck only just now spotting that pawn that does manage to get killed, which is great. Meanwhile, this is what vision he has. This is a very, very ballsy resbot, though. So far forward, able to get quite a bit of the reclaim from the units that he's lost already. But currently, overflowing metal. Now, he is overflowing metal, but is also removing that metal from the game by accessing it, but also removing it from Ubivator, which is the keyest part here. He doesn't want to give that to Ubivator. Ubivator losing a con on the left-hand side. That's one of his only expansion con going that direction. And we've got FlyingDuck's eco at the top here, still overflowing metal. You can see consistently going up. He desperately needs more build power. As we select Ubivator here, Ubivator struggling here. He has good mexes in the center, but if he can't even control his own flanks, then that's a big, big problem. More and more Centurions slowly making their way onto the field. We can see one pushing down on the right-hand side, one here going down the middle. The Ubivator's calm out on his own here. I don't think there's enough grunts anywhere nearby to kind of take the most of that, unfortunately, for FlyingDuck. But we see FlyingDuck now transitioning over to some thugs. He still has a large amount of grunts queued up. Energy is his biggest problem, though, at the moment, as he's severely lacking on energy. A problem that the Ubivator does not have right now. Thugs will start making a push into the center. This is a very good play by FlyingDuck. The pretty much one advantage that Ubivator had was that he held the middle. And with this push by the grunts and the thugs, that is no longer going to be the case. And not only does clearing out this center remove metal extractors from Ubivator's control, but another thing that it does is it opens up these avenues here to attack, where if he controls the center, he can attack anywhere along here, and it's going to be difficult for Ubivator to know where he needs to defend. This is a sizable force on the right-hand side, though, that could push straight down into some exposed constructors. He is trying to build an armed exploiter here, FlyingDuck, but I doubt it's going to get built in time if it continues moving. Meanwhile, these thugs are slowly making their way forward, clearing out everything out the center, and this is definitely proving problematic for Ubivator here. Ubivator trying to counter with his own maces here, but he is in a tough spot. He is Armada, so could potentially go vehicles of Genesis. That would do very well versus these grouped up units. Oh, losing the con on the right-hand side, Flying Duck. Armed exploiters are okay, but noticed that they kind of get killed very, very easily. They are the equivalent of basically an LRT and an MX combined. Rough ballpark. Not accurate numbers there. Don't hate me if I'm not giving you complete accurate numbers, but yeah. This force though of Ubivator pretty much getting surrounded here, kind of ignored as well with 3 pawns left. A Centurion walking along the side though does slowly make a way, and same with this force here. Another expanding instructor will get destroyed. It's going to be close between these two fighting, and the armed exploiter does go down, does take the Centurion out. There's a big group of forces left. Flying Duck though now going into air, into a bombing run as it flies over the center of the base. AA trying to come out quickly, but huge bombing run. And now Ubivator's energy has gone back into the Stone Age. The only thing providing strength at the moment is that he does happen to have an energy storage. Somehow he has still enough energy to make his way, but still. Ubivator kind of building up a bit of a wall on this right-hand side, but the problem is now his commander is so far away from his base that this force on the right-hand side can push into the base relatively easily. Like, especially considering they can kind of just go back over the hill and push straight from the front. This map is very difficult to deal with in a 1v1. In a team game, you know, it's all about lanes, so that fights that, that fights that, that fights that. But in a 1v1, you can kind of get attacked from everywhere, and so it makes it really difficult. Flying Duck now getting a bit of vision with that last scout. He knows what's capped. Ubivator surprisingly bringing it back when it comes to metal production. Both players fairly even right now. Metal production, though, total metal produced is significantly advantaged by Flying Duck here, and you can see that in army value when it comes to 20% difference in army value, about 1.5k metal difference between the two players. There is obviously about 4k metal produced total difference, though, between the two players, so a lot of that probably would have gone into the bombers, which are obviously no longer exist. This has forced Flying Duck to have to build more fighters, and Ubivator is returning the kind, is also building fighters. We're now reaching the 13-minute mark. Lines have kind of been drawn, especially on the left-hand side. No real movement there. It looks like Flying Duck may be trying to gather a bit of a force over here to then finally attack. Ubivator's scout wave coming in. Doesn't see the base. Sees a large group of shurikens though, which is important information. He probably thinks by the lack of attacking that Flying Duck may be going Tech 2, which is exactly what he is doing. Thing is, Ubivator can't really afford to go Tech 2, but he's going to have to match that. If he loses much ground though during this phase, that is going to be a problem. This is a good group of forces though. Ubivator has managed to sneak around these metal extractors. There is a Centurion back here which will do good, but all of the shurikens surprisingly thrown away here to push onto this 2.9 metal extractor. And it seems that Flying Duck is moving all of his forces onto the left-hand side with the exception of these grunts that he's kind of throwing away to keep these units busy. If they get by, they'll get a bunch of metal extractors for free. Otherwise, you know, he's got a huge amount of damage to be dealt here. Surprisingly, we see Ubivator actually moving these forces back here. Meanwhile, the center is looking a bit risky. We do see a great mix of Ghost and Tumbleweed. Whether he will be able to pull this off will be interesting to see, but as the large group of forces, Flying Duck, oh, the scout, the spybot gets detected. Tumbleweed 1 and 2 get destroyed before hitting their mark. But this has forced Flying Duck back a bit. We can see Ubivator already with 5 Tumbleweeds ready to rock. What Tech 2 do we have coming out from Flying Duck? We have only Fiends. And we see actually a decent chunk of them already as they make their way over the hill. The whole point of this force here is just to cause a distraction, send units out, and try and get some economy damage around here. Fiends actually coming from behind. Not doing quite as much as we'd hoped, but it has pushed Ubivator back. Ubivator really struggling here. He has way too many Tumbleweeds. 585 metal worth of Tumbleweeds. 52,000 energies worth of Tumbleweeds. And now... ooh, I thought they were going to chain there. Three Tumbleweeds to take out 3 Thugs is not a good trade. The EMP does go off though on the center. Tumbleweed is not really ready. Gets close and self-destruct does a lot better there, but Fiends have already made it into the base of Ubivator. And bye-bye build power. As these Fiends just slowly getting this base. He is trying to reclaim all of these Fiends here, but it's not going to be enough. As Flying Duck just manages to completely overwhelm the base of Ubivator. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if he actually built some main combat units, like some hounds or maybe even a gunslinger, you know. Don't think it would have really changed the outcome too much. Flying Duck was very, very far ahead. Metal Produce, we're talking, you know, 10k difference between the two players. And with that, Ubivator's base is done.
Commander has self-destructed.
And of course, Ubivator calling the GG there. Very well played, Flying Duck. Completely dominating that map, and it all started with basically denying Ubivator this corner. He was able to control that corner, stop Ubivator expanding, and it just rolled on from there. Very well done to Flying Duck, and thank you all for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.